Welcome to It Takes Two. I'm Blair.
I'm Chris.
And today we're taking a deeper dive into our thoughts about the last episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville.
I need you to subscribe, like, share, comment, all the above. You know what, Blair? I waited specifically for Friday for us to do this deep dive because I wanted to make sure that I let my thoughts marinate, that I didn't come out here just talking out of both sides of my mouth and things of that nature. I read the comments. Chris, you're wrong. Chris, you're loud and wrong. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to actually examine, watch the scene multiple times, take down notes, actually review what was said and not what I thought, you know what I'm saying, was said. And it's time.
All right.
It's time to talk about this Jaylin, Marsau, Kimmi, Maurice, father figure, not a father figure. He's a mentor, big brother thing that's going on, right? Before we get into it, do you have anything that you want to talk about that scene?
No, I'm ready to jump in.
Right. So overall, this whole issue right here, the foundation of this issue, so that we all know, is about family business. That is the foundation of the issue, is that Maurice had an idea that basically, you know, Jaylin and Monster would be part of the family business, right? Jaylin's like, I ain't really trying to be part of the family business and things of that nature because I kind of know how the Scots work. Mainly Maurice. You get what I'm saying? Maurice likes to basically lord over and tell people what to do. Basically like a dictator, right? Is everybody following so far, right?
Yep, we're right here with you.
So we see the flashback. I'm going to give some quotes, right, before I give my opinion, right? We see the flashback where Jaylin is talking to Kimmi, and he said he just never felt like a father figure. It was always more just a homie. He never made me feel like a son. As the years went on, I kind of looked at Marsau like the father figure. And one thing that I did say in the review that we did this past weekend was that it is Maurice's responsibility to find a middle ground so that Jaylin wouldn't feel this way. I did say that.
All right.
Right?
Yes.
I did say.
Let's make it crystal clear.
No.
Yeah?
I did say that because people acting like, because here's what I realized about these type of shows, especially Love and Marriage Huntsville, right? Even though I do not like Maurice based off of the character that he portrays on the show, that doesn't mean that someone that I do not like doesn't mean that they can be right sometimes or they can be wrong sometimes, right? So because Maurice is allegedly a cheater, because of the way he treated Kimmi during her cancer thing, because he's Maurice Luther King and things of that nature, it's like Maurice can never be right. Maurice is always wrong. The same way as people feel about Kimmi. People feel like, hey, Kimmi, you chose a penis over your son. You can never be right. You're wrong. Y'all parented wrong and things like that. I like to go off of what was said. You get what I'm saying? I don't want to project what my own thoughts. I want to go off of what was said. And right here, I can see, okay, he never made me feel like a son. That is a strong point of Jaylin that he said to Kimmi, right? I want to point that out. Just so we know, I looked online, I did my research and things like that, because me and Blair, we kind of feel a little bit that, you know what, this may be a story just for the show, because, you know, Kimmi and Maurice don't want to show their life, so they just say, Jaylin, you it, go in there, tell the world Maurice is not your father.
Pretty much.
You get what I'm saying? So some of these feelings can be portrayed.
Like, we a little bit down the road for that, ain't we? Ain't he about 30 almost?
He's 27, 28 years old, right?
Yeah.
So it is something that's like, it's interesting that's coming up now that there's no other person to focus on since they left the show and things of that nature. But let's continue on, right? So this is where Maurice and Jaylin actually have a conversation. They are at the pool house and things of that nature, and they're playing pool, and Maurice is talking about the potential job in a new field that Jaylin's trying to get into, right? He's like, hey, I understand, like, you're into cyber and things like that, like, basically, like, you're trying to get into that field and things of that nature. And Jaylin's basically saying, like, yeah, right now I'm an IT specialist, and right now I potentially got a job offer to go out to Colorado and basically have a job out there. Maurice apprehension to that was like, hey, like, why you want to go out there for? Because
family business.
Right. That's the foundation of all of this, right? Family business. And that's when he's like, I basically lived here all my life and things like that. Why would I want to, like, you know, I want to get to know myself and learn myself and things of that nature. Like, you know what, I'm gonna go out there. Maurice is like, you know what, there's no problem with you going to know yourself, right? One thing I realized as they are about to enter into this conversation, right, I realized that I don't know if Jaylin's nervous, But we about to get into him basically expressing what he said to Kimmi, and what he said to Kimmi, it doesn't come out as clear as when he's actually talking to the person that he's talking about.
Okay.
Right? So now they get to talk about, hey, I don't know if I want to be part of the family business. This is Jaylin talking, because you know, especially Maurice talk about, I want you and Monster to be part of it. He's like, I know how the Scots work. I don't know, and things like that. And then you gonna have me doing stuff and things of that nature, talking, maybe gonna have me pick up Monster and things like that. And now he says this. He said, growing up, when both of us were in the house, you will always make me do stuff. You will always ask me to do stuff. And I'm sitting there like, your son is sitting right there playing a video game like I am. I didn't really like that too much. What are your thoughts on that alone right there, Blair, if you have any thoughts?
I'm just listening to Jaylin.
Okay.
And his experiences and what he was feeling at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have an opinion on that. I think the other point of the conversation was for Maurice to hear Jaylin.
Yes.
And to understand where he's coming from. So I'm hearing Jaylin's examples and just listening as to why he feels the way he feels. That's all, the only thing I have to say of that.
I have a problem with this statement, right? My problem is that you are 10 years older than Monster, right? This is not a stepson issue or a stepchild issue. This is a multiple child issue, to where even if you have children that you birthed, and if there's multiple children, right, guess what? More times than not, the oldest will bear the responsibility of basically being called upon to do stuff. That doesn't mean that Monster's not doing stuff. We've seen episodes to where, hey, I asked Monster to clean his room, I asked Monster to do this, and he only do stuff. This is what Kimmi said. He only do stuff when you're home, Maurice. But when he's home with me and things like that, he's not doing it. So it's not that Monster didn't have chores, right? It's just that he was in his teenage years, and guess what? Jaylin is entering into his young adult man years. So I can understand from a parent perspective of, hey, it may not be fair, but I'm asking you to do stuff because, number one, you're the oldest and I trust you to get it done. You get what I'm saying? More than, oh, there's favoritism and things of that nature. Now, here's the thing about it. It is Maurice's job, as I'm going to share the blame, to communicate that to your stepson.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that gets me too, is that I do feel like in some people's parenting styles, they don't feel like they need to talk to their kids.
No, they don't.
And I think that especially when it comes to like a step-parent relationship, that you have to, in a way, over-communicate.
Yes.
Over-explain and try to make sure that your intentions match with what's actually being done and what's being said, and that is being received in the way it's intended to.
Mm-hmm.
And no, that's not something that you can control. That's not something that you can know the outcome of how things will be 10 years down the road of how they experienced you growing up. But I do, the way that we have seen Maurice come across on camera at times, the way I interpret it, and the way that Marsau and Kimmi have explained their experiences with him as well, is that he's more in defensive mode than he is in trying to actually come to a common ground to make sure that the party he's speaking to understands where he's coming from through his intention, not through, I'm trying to be right.
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
That is coloring every situation the same. This is not that.
But what I'm saying is that as a step parent, yes, you can tell your kid to do this, to do that, to this and that. If you notice that, okay, like he doesn't feel comfortable coming to me for stuff, we don't actually like have sit down conversations to where I feel like, I'm guiding him and he can like really take heed to what I'm saying, then I think those are the things like as a step parent that you have to work extra for. Not to say you don't tell them what to do.
I understand
but
that.
I think that the extra effort comes in building that relationship. It's on the parent.
I understand that. I want to go off what was said, right? Not what I think. Because I believe, and somebody said in the comments, and I actually agree with you, the reason why they agree with what I said in the comments is because they said, Blair and myself, we are very good at articulating our thoughts, right? So with Jaylin, he's not that well at doing that, at least on camera, that like we see. So it leaves us to basically finish his thoughts, to basically fill in the blanks and things of that nature. To where I am from the era to where, hey, if you're a man, which Jaylin is 27 years old, it is your responsibility to actually say what's on your mind, to actually mean what you say. So I'm only going to go off of what Jaylin said. This is his time to actually talk to the person.
But I feel like I listened to what he said.
No. I understand.
And my response was based off what he said.
Yeah, he said right now he's comparing himself to Monster about chores. And my thing is,
I said that's Maurice needed to communicate.
And
better.
my thing is, he needed to communicate better. But also, I do not want my 10-year older son complaining to me about the chores he have to do when he's 17 and the other one is 7. Like, I'm sorry. I understand that, like, I can communicate more, but during that time, yes, he is playing the game, and yes, you are playing the game too. Yes, he is my actual son, but at the end of the day, I trust you to get the work done. And guess what? There's room for mistakes right there. But
I think that's fair.
And my thing is, hey, that is not a stepson issue. That's not only pertaining to Jaylin and the unique situation that Kimmi, Maurice, and them have. That is if you have multiple children. Sometimes the oldest child is going to bear the weight of his siblings or her siblings, and sometimes the parents.
Gotcha.
Right? That doesn't make it right. I'm just trying to show this is what happens, right? It's not unique to Jaylin, right? So Maurice asked, did you feel difference in love like I love Monster more? Jaylin said, of course. He's your son. I'm not your actual son. Let's stop right there. That is a direct answer to a direct question in the sense of, did you feel difference in love? He said, of course. He's your son. I wish in this moment, right, that Maurice would have met him with, well, I love y'all the same. Right. One thing that he did say was when Jaylin said, I'm not your actual son, Maurice said, you're not my son. I wish in that moment Maurice would have been like, you both are my sons.
He could have affirmed him.
And I love you both the same.
Agreed.
Even though, watch this, even though I treat you differently because y'all both are about to enter different parts of your lives, I hope that you would have known that it was both fair.
And that's where the communication.
That's where the over communication part should have happened on Maurice's part. But Maurice did something that I think that we need to give him credit for in this scene, because Maurice Luther King, as you know, Melody gave him and things of that nature, that name, he did something that we probably would never ever see again on Love and Marriage Huntsville. You know what he did, Blair? He asked the question, where did I fail?
And I thought that was a great question. I thought it was. I thought it gave Jaylin the floor, the opportunity to give more.
Yes.
As far as the breakdown in their relationship. Instead, he chose to. You have the words.
Hold on.
Exactly. You have the words verbatim.
Maurice said, where did I fail? Jaylin's response was, you helped me change my first toilet. You helped me change my first dishwasher. You helped me change my first tire. And I am forever grateful. But you were more like a mentor to me. But as I got older and started working with Marsau, I gravitated to him more for the father figure aspect. What do you notice about that response?
That he didn't answer the question.
He did not answer the question. And I'm sorry. You're 27, 28 years old. You was asked a direct question. You was actually given the floor to actually express to the person that you feel this way towards. This is not you talking to Kimmi. I understand that you may feel comfortability with Kimmi because that's your mom, of course, and things of that nature. But you was actually given the floor. We cannot say that Maurice did not give him the floor to actually express what was the problem in their relationship. He gave him the floor. Where did I fail? Right?
But I will say conversations aren't black and white.
I understand that.
And people say that some people do have a hard time expressing themselves. And I think that some people have their internal reasons of maybe I don't want them to feel the weight of how I feel. Maybe I don't want them to, me saying this might damage our relationship further. Maybe I don't want to end up getting into an argument about it. Like, people have their reasons for communicating direct to questions versus around questions, and all of that is still communication, even though I prefer direct.
Listen here.
We both prefer direct, but
direct is the only way that it's going to get fixed.
But people do have different communication styles, and I understand that. I just think it makes it harder to get down to the root.
Yes.
To actually, fix the situation. But by going by what he said in this moment, that maybe it was him who just gravitated towards Marsau and tried to protect himself.
Watch this. This is what he says. I'm going to read it verbatim.
Go ahead.
Because Maurice did not cut him off. He let him talk.
Yeah.
He said, You know, you helped me change my first toilet, you helped me change my first dishwasher tire and things like that. And I'm forever grateful. But you were like a mentor to me. But as I got older and started working with Marsau, I gravitated to him more for the father figure aspect. It wasn't mainly you. This is Jaylin still talking. Maurice have not cut him off or said anything.
Right.
He said it wasn't mainly you. It was definitely me trying to hide myself and not get my hopes up. You were with my mom. I just chose to not gravitate towards you because I didn't want to get attached, disappointed if it didn't work out. Mm-hmm. How is it Maurice's fault that he's not the father figure when Jaylin said out his mouth right here that he wasn't trying to be a son?
But I think
that he was that he was protecting himself, that he chose. This is what he said. He said, I chose not to gravitate towards you because I didn't want to get attached and disappointed if it didn't work out. That makes sense. I'm not saying what he's saying doesn't make sense.
Okay.
But I'm saying it just automatically, when people over here talking about, well, of course he ain't gonna gravitate towards Maurice because of the way that he treated Kimmi. Of course he ain't gonna gravitate towards Maurice because of this and this and this and that and that. Go off of what Jaylin said. We can't pick and choose to listen to what Jaylin said, and then when he actually said what he said, we're like, oh, that's not really it, right? He said, hey, I understand that Kimmi and them was dating for 7 years and things of that nature, and Maurice inserted himself into their life, right? Also, I believe Maurice was Jaylin's barber and things of that nature. So all this time, Kimmi probably was dating. There's probably been men in and out, who knows, right? But I can understand the whole not getting yourself basically attaching hopes up because for the longest it's only been you and your mom, right? But also at the same time, I asked the question in the beginning of this, if I was Maurice, where did I fail? And this was an opportunity for you to actually tell me so it can help me parent better, to be better, to actually show up better for you. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, so my thoughts about that are, I agree, Jaylin is grown now.
Yes.
And it would be great if Jaylin could give more examples, and instead of turning the situation onto, okay, maybe it was me and maybe it wasn't you, you know, it's a possibility that it could be a mix of the both. And he possibly hasn't really taken the time to really think and formulate a list to present it to Maurice, so that way it's in bullet format for him and for us to, you know, be able to digest. I get that, you know, it could be a situation of, I talked to my mom, now you want me to have this conversation. Maybe it was a couple of things, you know, I think that's fair to give him the space for that. But I think that as a child,
yeah,
you know, even if he was a teenager, I watched Carlos' interview with Marsau and stuff like that. Marsau was saying that Maurice came into Jaylin's life when he was like 13.
Yeah.
And you're basically coming in on level 13, and that's kind of hard to form that relationship with somebody who has spent their whole life with their mother, and you coming in that way. So for me, I feel like it can be, even though I believe Jaylin knows what he experienced as a teen, I think that during that time period, it can be hard to sift through your emotions. You know, you're developing into an adult, you're dealing with different things in school and home life, and it's a lot of change that he experienced. So he may not be able to pinpoint it because at the time he was a child.
Facts.
You know, and I think that is fair for there to be some gray area as far as who holds more responsibility or who was pulling back on the relationship, so to speak. But that's where I still put the onus on Maurice.
Of course.
Because I'm like, for this to be the first, the way he reacted was as though he didn't know this. Whereas Kimmi,
talking about Maurice, yeah.
Whereas Kimmi has said she's had multiple conversations with Maurice about this.
Yeah, she did.
And that makes me more so onto Maurice's back to say, okay, it's one thing if you didn't realize it in the moment. It's another thing if your wife brings it up to you and you dismiss her.
Yeah.
And then it's another thing for years down the road for the son to come back and to explain that, hey, there was something in the middle where I didn't feel like you were my father figure. He may not quite have the words, but as the parent and the fact that I've heard this before from my wife, let me meet you where you're at because I don't want you to feel that way. And I think that's the thing that Marsau was talking about as far as impact. Because you may have all the best intentions. You may be parenting and trying to train the child up in the best way you can, providing for him, you know, being there for, you know, his mother and your wife. But at the end of the day, if he doesn't feel that you have provided that support to him as a father figure in whatever way that he might not be able to convey, then it's up to you to meet him where he's at to try to affirm that relationship, especially this late in life.
And
you
especially
know?
this week. Now, just to give some type of real life, because one thing that Maurice said was that he feels like he had a hand in the man that Jaylin is today, right?
Yeah.
I want to give all respect for Kimmi for even being proactive while she was dating Maurice and things of that nature to basically be like, with Maurice or with a spouse, without a spouse, I'm going to pay for my son to go to college.
Yes.
Respect to the parent, Kimmi, for that, right? One thing that I looked online and that I saw like in real life and things like that is that congrats to Maurice Jr. He graduated high school with honors and things of that nature. He got a scholarship to go to Troy and things of that nature. He set some records in his high school. Monster went from vaping in the bathroom to basically growing up and going through regular life and basically about to go into adulthood. Respect to that.
Yeah.
Also, the same way as I give respect to Maurice and also the mom that lives in Detroit for Monster, I give respect to Kimmi for that as well too, because she's a step parent. The same way as I give full respect to Kimmi for where Jaylin is in life, I also give respect to Maurice too, as being the step parent in Jaylin's life. One thing, if you go on Jaylin's page and things of that nature, one thing that he speaks about Maurice is that he always speaks of Maurice as an inspiration, because during that time he saw Maurice basically studying and being in law school and things of that nature. So he's seen an example. There is something to actually seeing someone actually achieve something and actually go through something. So this is not a situation of, which I think a lot of people was kind of going too far with their comments. This is not a situation to where Jaylin do not like Maurice.
And I feel like the points you're making are separate conversations.
Yes, like
it's a separate conversation. I hear you.
But I'm addressing the comments.
I got you.
This is not a situation to where, Jaylin don't respect Maurice and things like that. That Jaylin don't like Maurice because of the way that he treated his mom. This is not that, right? My only issue with this whole thing, with everything with this, because this is about the family business and why Jaylin don't want to be part of family business, is that I feel like it is a stretch and even, as Maurice would say, a gut punch to say Marsau is more of a father figure than Maurice is. Now, just to give a background on Marsau, right? Marsau was the same guy that said on national television, "Those are not my kids." Talk about his kids. "Those are not my kids. Those are Tisha kids. I'm just a dad." I am under the impression that, well, it's not the impression, it's facts. Jaylin worked with Marsau. He worked with him in Scope. He worked with him at Black. So there is a familiarity. There is a more comfort in the sense of, you know what, this is my boss. This is my uncle. At the same time, there is got to be some type of, you know what, I talk to him more. I probably can lean on him more, especially if my step parent, if one of them, well, not one of them, if Maurice is a dictator, right? More times than not, you're not going to lean towards the dictator if there's someone there as another option who is not the dictator, right? But my only issue, or what I'm trying to convey to everybody else, is of course Marsau is not going to be the dictator. Of course Marsau is not going to take the position of basically being the father or even like the dad of Jaylin in that way, because there's no skin in the game. Even though Marsau was to say, and he said, I view Jaylin as my oldest son, right? I heard what you said about your actual son. I heard what you said about your actual children, is that those Tisha kids. So my thing is, even though I understand that Marsau is there for Jaylin and that he talks to Jaylin and things of that nature, at the end of the day, if Maurice is presenting himself as a dictator, which there is definitely room to correct yourself, of course he's going to gravitate towards Marsau, not because so much that Marsau proven himself, but because he said out his mouth, I chose not to gravitate towards you because I didn't want to get attached or disappointed if it didn't work out. That's my only issue with the whole father figure thing. I believe there was definitely room for Maurice to show up better. Hell, in that last scene where they was having Marsau and Tisha and Kimmi and Maurice, it felt like an intervention for Maurice. It felt like everybody was basically like, we got to tell Maurice about himself a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But my whole thing is, hey, I don't think that Marsau is showing up any different or any better in the sense of, of course he showed himself to be a father figure to Jaylin because Maurice is just so bad. It's because, listen, he has no skin in the game. That's not his actual son. He's an employee. He worked closely with him. He's a frat brother of him. So there's a certain closeness and a certain understanding.
His nephew.
Yeah, that's his nephew.
Yeah.
And my thing is, there's nothing wrong with, hey, guess what? That's my uncle. But the father figure thing just came off as a little weird to me. That's all I'm saying about the whole thing.
Yeah, and I guess for me, that I feel like whatever the reason, this is how Jaylin views them both.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we're going to be able, or they're going to be able to change Jaylin's mind about what he feels, about who he feels it toward. It's just the circumstances that happened and how he ended up feeling. And I don't think that Maurice needs to, at this point, like we're kind of down the line, try to make Jaylin feel any differently. But I do think that he could try to affirm and work on their relationship in a way outside of, what are you about to do? What's your next goal? What's the next thing that you're going to do? Yeah. And I feel like, yes, I think that's inspirational. I think it's motivational. I think that creates, or, in their situation, it seems to create some very successful young men, which I think that is awesome. But I think that there could be work done on the relationship side. And the fact that Kimmi's noticed it, Marsau's noticed it, and they've tried to have conversations with him about it. Maybe that's just not something that he views as a priority. Maybe he views that if I make you into a successful member of society, I did my job, and the rest of it is just your feelings. And if that's,
I don't think that's the case, but
I'm not saying that is, but I'm just saying that it seems like he's prioritizing the outcome of how he raised them and how he turned out, because he said himself, like, he turned out great. That's great. But the thing is, y'all's relationship isn't exactly what you would like it to be, and there could be work to be done there.
Yeah, one thing that was said, that Kimmi said during the time where they were sitting next to each other, she said, I talked to you about basically how you've been treating Jaylin, and she said, I wanted to see, because she said, let's see if you would basically treat Jaylin differently. She said this happened before Monster even moved in,
right?
She said, let's see if you would treat Monster different compared to how you treat Jaylin once he moves in. And when Maurice Jr. moved in, she said you started treating him differently. And I talked to you about that. Basically, basically the golden child thing. I think that's a deeper dive for like another day when it comes to basically Maurice being the oldest in his group. I think I will put it like that, he's older than Marsau.
Yeah.
Right. So of course Marsau views as Maurice as, that's my big brother. He basically would view as the guy that could do no wrong. So, and then that's how he can relate to his nephew of like, you feel like Monster could do no wrong, even though I really don't understand this golden child thing with Monster outside of it just being about chores. But sure, right? Y'all both went.
Because I feel like we have seen Maurice get on Monster about.
Of course he has.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, I don't know. But like I said, this is TV.
But I do think that when Jaylin was in the home, and when, I guess, if Monster was coming for summers or when Monster finally moved in, I don't think they were raised in the home together.
No.
For like an extended period of time,
of course.
Because of how much older Jaylin was. So I think that, I think it's a lot of factors that play into it. But at this point, with Jaylin feeling how he feels, I don't think it's necessarily a thing for Maurice to get defensive about or to try to change Jaylin's mind. But I just think that, let's work on our relationship.
I don't think it's it is defensive because he don't agree with it, but I think his feelings is hurt. I think it's one way where you think you're doing something right the whole time.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, they'd be like, I view you as a big bro.
But that's why feedback is important. It does appear that Maurice has a hard time listening to anybody else.
Well, here's the thing. When given the time to actually talk, Jaylin didn't say anything.
Well, I will say when Maurice talks, he tends to listen to respond, not listen to digest.
Well, I'm not going off. I'm not coloring everything. He was given the floor to actually explain what was going on, and Kimmi said more to Maurice than Jaylin when given the floor to. I'm sorry. This is just how I was raised. I'm not a kid, and Jaylin's not a kid either. It's his responsibility to convey clearly to the party, this is my issue, and this is my problem.
Yeah, and I will say,
not to pussyfoot around it. This is now your time to be a man and to talk to your big bro as you view him. You get what I'm saying? And let him know this is where you fail.
Yeah, and I do think that when it comes to Jaylin and the way that he communicates, I mean, a lot of people could be better communicators.
Of course.
I say like a lot. That's not great.
Come on, Blair, stop it. You ain't gotta be. This is not that, okay?
But I do think that yes, there's room for improvement for him to communicate. But I think as a parent, you know what I'm saying? It's different if it's just another adult and that person doesn't get what you're saying.
I understand
But as
that.
a parent, I have love and a vested interest in you that I don't need you to communicate perfectly for me to try to meet you. You get what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, I disagree. As a parent,
I don't.
I feel like even if I feel like I'm not quite getting your point, I don't want you to feel that I'm not a father figure to
Let
you.
me tell you why I
You
don't
know?
feel the way I feel, or I don't agree. I feel like it's the responsibility of the parent to do that with a 3-year-old, with a 9-year-old, with a 15-year-old, even with a 17-year-old. You're 27. You're almost 30. You're almost 30.
I'm just like, people are different.
No, so basically, because at the end of the day, even though the title will be the same, as in you will forever be my child, if things like that. If your parent is 60 years old and you're 40 years old, is that grace still allotted to you to where it's like, well, you're my child, my 40-year-old grown child. I don't need to really understand what you're saying. No, like we have to give like he's an adult and he was given the opportunity to actually express what he felt, right? I believe that, and I agree, Maurice could have showed up very, like, he could have affirmed him and things of that nature. But when I gave you the floor to basically say, where did I fail? You failed to actually convey to me, where did I fail? Instead, you told me you told me you helped me change the toilet, dishwasher, and things like that, and then you put the blame on yourself. I didn't tell you to put the blame on yourself. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and maybe I'm from that generation to where, like, I'm probably gonna be hard on my son, but no, I'm just gonna be like, hey, when given the opportunity to talk, be clear in communication. Maybe Maurice could have reaffirmed the question of, I understand I showed you all those things, but I need you to tell me where I failed. Tell me what I didn't do.
And I think that's the extra care that a parent provides.
Maybe, but at the same time, he was given the floor to actually express himself,
And that's fair.
He was given the floor.
Yeah.
And I can't say that Maurice just say things to respond. I can't color this situation as he done in other situations, because when people actually show up or try to show up differently, I'm not going to just hold them. Well, all the other times you listen to respond. In this situation, when he was talking to Jaylin, he let Jaylin talk.
Yeah.
And Jaylin did not convey clearly what was the issue as he would with Kimmi. But I do not expect him to, because that's his mama. You get what I'm saying? There's a comfortability there. So all I'm saying is there is a whole bunch of room for improvement for Maurice to basically say, you know what? I parented you differently than I did Maurice Jr. I apologize for that. I apologize if you felt differently in love. I love you. I chose to be part of this family. I wouldn't lead with that, but I'm just saying, like, I love you as I love my son. You get what I'm saying?
For sure.
Of course, the reality is, when you come into a stepfather situation and you have a son that's actually yours, that's actually named after you, the lines get blurred. Like there is going to be some type of favoritism when it comes to, you know what, you are my actual son. I'm going to be a little bit more hands-on with you, right? But I feel like Jaylin was already, as he said himself, he was already battling attachment and not trying to be disappointed in getting attached to Maurice. So I can understand why he may feel like, you know what, I think it's best if, you know what, you are my mentor, you are my inspiration, you my big bro, right? All I have a problem with is Marsau being a father figure. I'm just like, I don't see how that's...
I mean, I guess for me, I'm not questioning it because that's the situation. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, what is there to question? That's how Jaylin feels about it.
I understand. To me, I'm just like, that's wild. It's almost like a situation where, have you ever had that parent?
But I will say
go ahead.
Marsau did say, on that interview that he was just like, look, if Jaylin lived with me, he probably would feel differently.
Of course he would.
And I think that's another thing is that, yes, I had a certain point in my life to where, like, I really enjoyed a particular aunt and over my mother. And it's just like, yeah, because your parent is going to be on you and make sure that you do the things that you need to do. But when you're younger, you don't necessarily have all of that understanding. You just know, I like this person better. I like what we get to do together.
And that's all I'm trying to say. I'm like, I said in the review, I said, I wonder if Jaylin was to talk to Marsau's son, would if they was to compare notes?
Yeah.
I wonder if he'd be like, I don't know this father.
Yeah.
Like, because you know what? Marsau actually got skin in the game when it comes to his actual son compared to Jaylin. That's why he can say freely, oh, yeah, Jaylin's like my oldest son. While he can say about his real kids, those not my kids, those teacher kids.
Yeah, but I think that...
Very different.
But I think that as you develop and get older, like, at least for my situation, like, my mom, that's my blood mom. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, as I get older, I'm just kind of like, yeah, nobody's going to take her position as far as my mother figure because she, you know, is in my life and all that type of stuff. Yeah. But I think for Jaylin, you can't really lean on the fact that this is your blood parent and you guys are always going to be connected because it's a stepfather. It can live in that place of limbo because I really don't have a blood connection to either of these people.
That is facts.
So it just goes to who I like the best, you know?
Yeah, he chooses to like Marsau, who is not the dictator to him.
Yeah.
And guess what? That's his frat bro. I have no problem with that. Anything else you want to add to this conversation that we missed?
That's all I got.
Listen, I need you to subscribe, like, share, comment, all the above. We will be back tomorrow with the review of Love and Marriage Huntsville. I saw the preview. I seen Marsau. Listen here, Marsau and Maurice may have been going at it last episode, but you know the brothers are tag teaming Ken this next episode, and Ken just not getting it.
He don't want to.
No, he don't want to. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Bye.